what's something that you wish everyone sort of knew about their brain or about themselves that really gets them stuck in these patterns in relationships or not feeling good about themselves?
I absolutely love this question. We think we see reality, but what we see is our own perception of reality. Reality is one thing, what we see is our own perception, not necessarily the truth. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it isn't. So just being able to question that will already make us feel way more powerful. We have our prefrontal cortex, that is this exact part here, and it was developed later on, right? That in evolution that came after. So this is essentially our filter. And then we have the limbic system. That's our emotions. Okay, that's where our emotions live, and that came before the prefrontal cortex. So we filter everything now. We have that power. But if we have very strong emotions, then the best thing is to pause, because I feel like for you to know if something are bad for you, you have to investigate and collect data, because there's no one size fits all. We're very complex things, very complex people.
I think between different cultures, between all of our different backgrounds, upbringings, there's so many nuances. And it's wild to me that most people refer to like a book and everyone refers to the same book to some degree. And that becomes like the rule or the law of
Yes.
what healed looks like. I'm curious from your perspective, what is neuroscience or what you're learning about really showing that self-help completely misses about the process of living the life that you want or healing and all of those things?
Oh, that's a great question.
Hey everyone, welcome to our podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy, and in today's episode, we are meeting with Mila Valam. And Mila holds a degree in neuroscience and behavior from PUC Brazil. If you are not familiar with that university, it's a very well-respected university in Latin America, and she's really made a move from academic neuroscience into real-world applications. Mila, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you so much.
So I know I just gave you like a really quick high-level introduction of you. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you do and just tell us a little bit more about you from your
Yeah,
own words?
definitely. So what I do essentially is I like to help people to understand this amazing tool that we have that is our brain. What I want with it is that we not only understand our behavior, but also understand why certain things are happening to us. I feel like if we can do that way, then for sure we can have a better life. Essentially, that is my goal for everyone, is that we are better and we understand the tools that we have.
That's really cool. So I understand that you work with a lot of clients dissecting their life, sort of their relationships, or what does
Yes.
your work look like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so I work with people going through a breakup or a divorce, and my main goal is to understand what's going on. So I do dissect their lives. I want to know everything, and I want them to be comfortable to share with me. And then with that, I use neuroscience. I let them know, oh, maybe this is because your dopamine, you're suffering like this because your dopamine is too low. You're suffering like this because this person maybe was the only amazing thing in your life. So we're going to help you build other amazing things in your life so you can, level up your dopamine system. And that's essentially what I do. I use neuroscience. I understand them because I love therapy and I think it's so important. I've been in therapy myself, but I feel like sometimes if you have a very specific problem, maybe if you have one piece of information, I know that you can get to your result faster. And the result would be to move on, to feel better about your life.
That's amazing. And so do you find that it's more like men or women that are coming to you for this type of support, or is it kind of spread evenly out of curiosity?
More women, but I do receive a lot of stories from men. Men usually they don't want to come and talk to me like we're doing now, but they want to tell me what's happening. And they ask, what's your perspective? Do you think she'll come back? Do you think I can make this better? And usually men are looking for a very specific thing, that is, can I make things better? And women are usually trying to understand how they can move on. So it's a little bit different what they're looking for, but I talk more to women.
Yeah, I asked that because I feel like there is this like natural stigma that I was aware of for a while where when you hear that someone is going to therapy, especially as a man, make the
Mm,
assumption that there's something wrong. Like there's like, hey, are you okay?
yeah.
And there's also this feeling about sharing your emotions as a man that I feel like is kind of frowned upon, especially in relationships. Most guys, at least for me, when I was earlier on in my like healing journey, so to speak,
Mhm.
it was always about trying to wrestle away the feelings. They just you move past it and you just let
Yes.
go. Like you don't even feel the feelings. So that's why I just asked that and brought it up. With the work that you do right now, how like what's something that you wish everyone sort of knew about their brain or about themselves that really gets them stuck in these patterns in relationships or not feeling good about themselves?
I absolutely love this question. The most important thing is that you understand neuroplasticity. I know now it's so broad, and I feel like way more people know about this than ever before, but essentially means that your brain is plastic, so it can adapt according to the experiences that you have. If, for example, maybe and not necessarily you remember those experiences. So understanding that your brain is plastic, you now have that amazing tool that you can use to reshape your brain. And there's no age limit. If you don't have anything slowing you down, if you don't have any neural degenerative disease, then you would never have to worry about not changing or not being able to change your relationship patterns because you can rewire everything. You can change how your neurons communicate. And because when we see reality, we think we see reality, but what we see is our own perception of reality. Reality is one thing, what we see is our own perception, not necessarily the truth. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it isn't. So just being able to question that will already make us feel way more powerful. It's like if I'm seeing this person and I know I've seen this before, this type of familiarity that I'm feeling, is it good? Does that mean this person is good for me? Or does that mean this is connecting with something that is not healed? So questioning that is very important and understanding that you can change.
That's huge. For anyone in the audience that might not be aware of neuroplasticity, like how would you
Mhm.
define it for, or how would you describe it to a client so they understand what the hell that means, you know?
Yeah. So let's think of plastic. Let's think this is a plastic bottle. Okay. If I put this, if I burn this, or if I heat it to the point that I can do this, I can mold it. That is essentially what neuroplasticity means. It's I can reshape everything in my brain with experiences. In this case, it wouldn't be with fire, thank God, but it would be with new experiences. We would have to understand and question certain things. For example, if you read a book, right? You're reading a book that is already reshaping your brain. I grew up in a very poor part of Brazil and I didn't have anyone I could look up to and I didn't feel like I fit in with my friends. I just wanted to stay home and read because I felt like when I was reading, I was being understood. And then later on, I developed skills that I don't think I would have if I didn't read those books. So essentially, neuroplasticity is the ability to think differently and in your brain that is changing. For example, if we had an MRI and I could actually analyze your brain, I would see that it is different. The structure would be different. So it's very cool.
So after you start doing this neuroplastic work, your brain actually looks different from before.
Yeah, it looks different. There's this very interesting thing. I forgot the guy's name, but he is a mountain hiker. I'm pretty sure. So there's a documentary about him on Netflix. I'll let you know so you can share with everyone. But I remember watching it, and I told my friend, I said, this guy probably has way less activation on his amygdala than somebody else, and because he wasn't afraid, he was not scared of doing that. And later on, inside of the show, that's what they told us. They said, "Oh, he has less activation." So you can change that. If you do exposure therapy, for example, every behavior that we can see that we can see outside, if we do an MRI, we can probably most likely analyze when we have the brain scan. So it's very cool.
And that's super cool. Have you heard of free climbers that
Yes.
also
Yeah.
retrain their brain so that yeah, so for like the audience, the free climbers essentially are reprogramming their brains from what I read so that their amygdala is so low that they can climb without any ropes like mountain climb and not feel afraid and not mess up because they're afraid. So that they're like just razor sharp. And it's really interesting. So is this similar work to what you're doing? You're helping people become absolutely fearless in a
Exactly.
relationship.
Exactly. I wouldn't say necessarily fearless. I think fear is important to a certain extent, but to learn how to recognize certain things, to pause and recognize and think, and sometimes take a step back, or sometimes not to be too scared. So it depends on the person, but that's essentially what I'm doing. It's very interesting to see neuroscience being applied in that type of sport because I feel like it can be overlooked, and yeah, so it's amazing. And it's exactly what I meant. The guy that I talked about, he's a free climber, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Fearless.
But that's really cool. So if it's pardon me, but it sounds really simple, right? It sounds like, okay, if you just
It's
know how to
simple.
reprogram your brain, retrain your brain, but what's holding everyone back? There's like billions of people on earth. Like, why is everyone not just
That's a
courageous in
great
the
question.
sense of, yeah, like what's kind of holding everyone back? Like, what do you see?
I see some reasons for that, but from a neuroscience perspective, your brain is always trying to make you survive. That's your brain's goal. It's not necessarily to make you happy, to make you thrive, none of that. This was developed later on for our species, right? But what I see the most is if you don't know something and you're not really sure, it's okay to be a little bit skeptical. So we need to be very open minded to change. And essentially, another thing that happens is some people, they get too stuck in one idea and your brain is very biased. If you think you know something, then your brain is always trying to prove you right. So you're going to look for evidence that what you think is right. And honestly, in this world, if you look for evidence that you're right, you are going to find it because your evidence is already biased. They're going to read through the lenses of, um, and you're going to read through the lenses of, I knew it. Oh, I told you, I knew it. I knew it. So your brain wants you to be right. It's very important for us to challenge that because being wrong and learning demands a lot of energy and your brain wants to save energy. So you have to, it's a little bit more work. And I feel like that's why a lot of people are stuck.
So what I'm hearing is that if you have this familiarity that you are a very good person and you're an amazing partner in a relationship, let's just say, you might be convinced that that is your reality and you are confused why other people are telling you that you are not, or that you're upsetting them or triggering them or whatever that is. And then your brain is creating a narrative to reinforce what you think about yourself, and you cannot see anything else outside of that. It's almost like tunnel vision. Is that what it sounds like?
Exactly, exactly. And you become biased. Let's think of TikTok. I love TikTok, but it's very interesting to see that after you like one thing, then that's all that is shown to you, right? And all the information that you have is the same type of belief you already have. So if you are in a relationship and you are challenged, your partner says, "Look, I think this isn't, I'm not happy, there's something maybe we can do differently," then if someone is not willing to understand, they're going to see that as an attack. So also understanding that when someone is giving you some type of information, maybe understand that. Don't see this as an attack, right? If I have a boyfriend and that's the type of thing that we talk a lot all the time. We always talk. So communication is very important too.
Wow. So just going off of this, so you have to differentiate what you believe essentially, like
Exactly.
information that you hear and information that you think you know. How do you know the difference then of what is helpful to you in order for you
Okay.
to break the patterns and stuff like that? Like, what does that look like? Because it sounds confusing. It sounds like you
Yeah.
could believe one thing and not know another thing, and then next day be like, "Oh wait, actually, I was wrong about that." Also, there's a whole another viewpoint that I didn't perceive.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. It depends on the subject. I think when it comes to human relationships, I think we'll know based on data. What's the data? How my relationships have been so far, and what's the type of feedback that I get. So I think collecting data and analyzing the data, and that you could do that with journaling. You could journal about it. You could go to therapy. You could sometimes, read a research and then understand, oh, maybe that's why I have this. And what if, yeah, analyzing data essentially. And there's lots of information all the time. And relationships are very complex. One thing could be right for one person and completely wrong for somebody else. And understanding yourself, understanding your values as well. I have the value of discovery. So I'm always willing to be wrong. To me, I have no problem learning something new and changing my mind because that's my value. But some people, they prefer to have a very clear path to follow. If I have this clear path, then I'll just go, go, go. It doesn't matter if I am essentially wrong or not. I just want to do this. Another thing that you can do is, how do I feel about this? How does this feel inside of me? When I understand this information, am I happy? Am I confused? And usually when you feel confused about something, then you need to go a little bit deeper in that, definitely. And I feel like one thing that we do, so let's think of the brain, right? Let's get the brain. We have our prefrontal cortex, that is this exact part here, and it was developed later on, right? That in evolution that came after. So this is essentially our filter. And then we have the limbic system. That's our emotions. Okay, that's where our emotions live, and that came before the prefrontal cortex. So we filter everything now. We have that power. But if we have very strong emotions, then the best thing is to pause, because I feel like for you to know if something are bad for you, you have to investigate and collect data, because there's no one size fits all. We're very complex things, very complex people.
I think between different cultures, between all of our different backgrounds, upbringings, there's so many nuances. And it's wild to me that most people refer to like a book and everyone refers to the same book to some degree. And that becomes like the rule or the law of
Yes.
what healed looks like. I'm curious from your perspective, what is neuroscience or what you're learning about really showing that self-help completely misses about the process of living the life that you want or healing and all of those things?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, one thing that I feel like self-help is missing, and I love self-help. I'm all up for it. Sorry. I'm all up for self-help. But there's one thing that they're missing, is that you just by knowing something is wrong or there's something to fix, then it's enough. And then you just think, oh, I know what I have and I want to fix it. But from a neuroscientific perspective, if you don't do anything about it, you never form the neural pathways to get there. There's no habit formation just by knowing you should be doing something. And when I remember reading a lot of self-help when I was younger and thinking, well, that's amazing. I would feel so excited. I'd be like, okay, now I'm going to change because I know what's wrong. And then I would just wait for something to happen, because if I know, then that's enough. And it would never be enough. If you know there's something you want to change in your relationship, in your life, if there's something, for example, I was having a conversation last night with my friends, and we were talking about how this friend was limiting himself. He was limiting himself. He was trying to accept that he didn't want more. He said his dream was to buy a very expensive watch, and he was trying to convince himself that maybe he didn't need that. So he knows that he wants that, but he was trying to convince himself that he doesn't, So just knowing you want something is not enough. So being very true to yourself is also something extremely important. Are you actually putting in the effort to get to where you want? And I would say that the step-by-step would be, you write down what you want, you write down everything you know about yourself, and then you investigate how you can change that for you. I'm going to give an example for the audience. Let's think of Lisa. That's our character here, Lisa. Lisa always attracts the same type of person. She's always with a guy that is kind of avoidant, that breaks up with her out of nowhere. So one thing that she needs to understand is, okay, I am attracting this type of relationship, or this is the type of thing that I don't want anymore in my life. So what she could do is she could buy a book on attachment style. She could hire relationship coach to understand more about her brain or about her behaviors, right? And take the steps. So if I'm attracting this, when I meet someone, how do I feel about them? Is it too familiar? Because sometimes too familiar means you are going to feel the same way again. So just knowing you have a pattern will never be enough to fix it.
Well, what if someone is completely unaware of, because like sometimes a pattern looks like a preference.
So
Sometimes you meet the same person over and over again because that's like someone that, oh, like, this is my type, or this is like the type of person that I'm into. But that could be a pattern also, but they both look good because like one, you think you know yourself really well, but the other is maybe a toxic pattern. Is there a way to know the difference, or what have you found that's really helpful for this? Because it's kind of like a nuance, you know?
That's such a good point. And I've been through that myself. And I feel like from my experience and from what I see and my clients, you need to go very slow because you will not be able to tell the difference, especially in the beginning. You have to go very slow and give it time. It's okay to have your preferences. I've seen people saying, um, I've had clients telling me, oh, maybe it's because I like men that look a certain way, and men that look a certain way have a certain type of behavior. That's not true. That is just you seeing it from your own lenses and your own experiences. That's not necessarily true. I've also seen men saying, oh, Asian women this, Latin women this. That's not necessarily true, right? So if you give it time, you have to give it time. Unfortunately, there's no magic answer to that. So it's okay to have your preferences. I would never think you should change your preferences, but you have to be very smart about how you deal with people. How fast do you fall in love? How fast do you let yourself fall in love? Because you can pace yourself using your prefrontal cortex. You pace yourself by, oh my God, I'm thinking about her. I'm thinking about him all day long. Okay, so maybe I'm going to distract myself a little bit and see if with time, maybe like 3 to 6 months, let's see if this person is consistent. So it's okay to have your preferences as long as you pace yourself in relationships.
No. So it's about time, discovery, and what you said earlier, collecting data, it sounds like. Just
Yes.
allow time to collect more and more and more data so that you feel better, more confident about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like also there's this stigma, right? I don't know if it's my algorithm, but I feel like a lot of people are focusing on self healing, solo healing. I'm going to do all of the healing that I can before I go into a relationship. That
Yeah.
is a myth. So there's something that there's this thing that I'm so fascinated about, that is we only started understanding the brain as a social organ in the 70s. When you think about it, it's like yesterday, right? It just happened. So before, we used to think that you have your brain, I have my brain, and we go our separate ways, but we can only evolve through relationships. There's no way I can, in my bedroom by myself forever, heal and develop. If you have a relationship problem, you're going to heal your relationship problem in another relationship or in relationships, not necessarily romantic. Sometimes it is with your therapist. Sometimes it is with friends. Sometimes it's traveling to meet other people, but essentially it is through relationships. It amazes me that we didn't know that. And now when we think about it, it's so obvious. So it's a little bit dangerous. Yeah, you have to pace yourself, but you shouldn't limit yourself. I'm not going to date anymore, or I'm never going to meet someone, or people are mean, when we have this negative view of other human beings. Because if we think about our society, the one that we are right now, yes, there are other societies that don't work as well. But if you're watching this, you are essentially okay. You have internet, you probably have some food, you probably have clean water. So our society works. That means most of us need to be good, need to be of service. So most people are good. I have that belief that most people are good. So don't be afraid of other people or having relationships with other people. Most people are going to be very good. Sometimes they're not going to be the love of your life, but they have something. Everyone has something to offer. So don't try to heal on yourself, because although that sounds very comforting, that also limits your growth.
You touched on a really wild topic because I feel like for so many people, the idea of a therapist or a coach or telling anyone of anything that's going on feels very, very jarring and feels very foreign, especially if you weren't raised in an environment where you talk about your feelings. Like I can use myself as an example. Growing up as an Asian American, you do not talk about feelings in the household. It is like not a thing. And I remember when I was young, like trying to tell my parents something about like my feelings and stuff like that, and they're like, "Boys don't feel like you don't feel that. Like it's okay. Like don't be strong. It's okay." You know. And I feel like that kind of creates this culture that you're describing, where people feel like they need to do it all themselves, and if they share with anyone, talk to a therapist, talk to a coach, like whoever, that you're not strong anymore because you couldn't do it by yourself. But what you're saying is that it's nonsensical because you won't actually be able to help yourself without
Exactly.
working with someone
Exactly.
or doing it with
Even if
someone.
it's a FaceTime with a friend, you're going to feel better and be able to separate your thoughts and analyze your own thoughts, even just saying it out loud. Sometimes you just need someone to listen to you, but it is two people, minimum two people. So I understand what you're saying, especially I see that especially in Asian culture, that happens a lot. My boyfriend is Asian and he shared with me how it was for him. Being Latin, I feel like I was allowed to express myself, but definitely I see that a lot of people struggle with that. And I find it so sad because if you're able to express yourself, if you are able to express yourself, then you can give it another meaning and you can reshape and feel better. Sometimes if someone just says one word, they say, "No, yeah, one sentence, I believe in you." Your dopamine already goes like this. You're like, "Yes, I'm capable. I can do it." There was this very interesting case and very sad. The girl's name is Jenny Jenny Willie, yeah. And that happened in the 70s. Well, Jenny, she was born and in the 70s, and her dad put her in a bedroom and he left her there after she was 20. I think she was 2 years old. Yeah, after she was 2 years old. They left her in a bedroom, a dark bedroom, and she never developed. She never developed. So she never developed to become someone that can talk, someone that can express herself freely. And when they found out, I think she was 12 years old, 13 years old when they found Jenny, and they tried to rehabilitate her and give her therapy, but she was never able to fully recover. So we need each other. We need other people. There is no way we can evolve without other relationships, other human beings. So Ginny, she had this very drastic thing in her brain. It was a damage on her left hemisphere, which is more connected to logic and speech. So she never learned how to communicate. But if she had proper care, probably she would have been okay. So for us to be where we are now, it is because someone, maybe they didn't do the best job as they could have. Sure, I think most people can't do that, especially in our generation, right? I'm Gen Z, so especially in this generation, we see a lot of people that grew up alone with their phones, and it's so dangerous, right? But essentially, our parents did a good enough job that we can now use what we have to be even better and to acknowledge, oh, maybe I couldn't express myself at home, but now I can have friends. Now I can find people with the same interest as me, even if it's online. And when I talk about books, some people might think, oh, but books, you are alone. You are alone, essentially alone, but you have other people's ideas going into your brain. So even reading is better than just being, scrolling, doing meaningless things. So we have so many tools now that can help us.
It's really amazing. You were saying this and how social we are and how we receive so much information and that creates healing. But at the same time, isn't it true that it's also through social experiences that also create wounds? So how do we know who to really interact with that is actually giving us medicine versus giving us, I don't want to use like this so loosely, like poison essentially for our brains and our patterns? Like what if we have a friend that's reinforcing something negative that we actually don't want? We don't even realize that, or a parent, or maybe even a therapist who has their own ideas about how life should be, how a relationship should be, et cetera. Like how does one differentiate what we allow into our minds? How do we filter this information so that it actually leads to the outcome that we want?
That's a great question. Well, the first thing that we have to understand is it doesn't matter who is going to be around us. You need to be able to hold yourself. So we live in this paradox. You need to be able to be okay with less people around you. And also you need to be okay in social settings, right? Because you're going to need people. How do you differentiate? Again, you're going to collect data. How do you feel about this person? And how do they make you feel? And how do you feel around them? So you have to understand the difference between how this person makes me feel and how I feel about them. Sometimes you feel a certain way. For example, maybe you really love your mom. You think, but I love her. It's your feeling towards her, but Your mom makes you feel like shit. So how do you deal with that? You can love her from a distance. You can just focus on the things that you can talk to her about without trying to change her, and maybe accept that this is the relationship that you have with this person, and this is as far as you can go with this person. And now you're going to go to therapy and understand how you deal with that, not with the person that is causing the feelings, but you're going to do that with someone that can hold space for you. How do you differentiate? It depends on how you feel. If you are with someone, you were in love with someone, but when you are with them, they make you feel less than. And this is something that happens a lot with my clients. They say, I love him, but he told me he'll never love me the way that I need. I'm like, how do you feel when he says that? I feel less than. I feel like I'm not enough. Oh, okay, so now we have the data that this person makes you feel like you're not enough. If you didn't have that constant reminder that you are not enough, then you would be able to thrive and not occupy such a huge part of your brain with this type of feeling. So it's okay to love someone, but from a distance. We need to be mature enough to accept that there are people that are going to be bad for you and people that are going to be amazing for you. And you should focus on people that are making you feel amazing. So you love them and you feel loved by them.
Yeah, it's kind of like loving them as much as you love yourself and making sure that they love you the way that you love yourself a little bit. Like that's how I kind of think of it when you say that.
Yeah, definitely. And understanding that you're gonna find people that are not good, but you trust yourself. You trust yourself because the relationships that you had before, they gave you the confidence already. There's no way you can get confidence from yourself. Some people say, how do I become more confident? Because I want to be more confident. It's through relationships. It is through relationships. And some people say, oh, don't rely on anyone. It's not about not relying on anyone. It's about finding the right people that connects with you. They connect with you in a level that when you look at them, when you are present with them, you feel like you are present within you. There's no need to perform. It's not performative. It's finding your people. So you don't need to be perfect to be in a relationship. You don't need to be perfect to, I have to protect myself. You don't need to be protecting yourself. You just need to understand, if I feel bad, then I'll take my distance. It's not that serious.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a belief that I just have myself, but I see that there's like a tendency, or maybe making an assumption that majority of people that find themselves in these predicaments sometimes are people who are actually very loving, and they can confuse the love that they have for everyone around them and allow situations to come into their life that might not actually be good for them, but because they just really care about people. And like that example you use about like a mom, for example, which is a very complex situation because you naturally want to love your mom, and at the same time, there are certain dynamics about your mom that could be creating this dynamic where you're feeling not good about yourself, or you're in a loop where it's like, I don't want to use the word, like kind of toxic essentially. And I guess it's just a challenging thing to go through. And for someone who is experiencing this, how, like, I know you said collecting data, but like, if your perception is so, I guess, misguided essentially because of the tunnel vision of your past perceptions and your belief systems and your environment, how does someone really like just really have a serious transformation about what they believe and what they know in order to get out, like, because you said you have to know first in order to actually start creating the habits to change. How do you like flip that switch, like without, because so many people already do the things you're talking about, like talking to people, and maybe someone's already seeing a therapist, but a lot of people don't necessarily fully change. So is there something that you would recommend for someone like this who's experiencing this, and they feel like they've tried so many things, but they are having really hard time like seeing what they cannot see themselves, and the mirrors of other people around them are not giving them the insight? Like, what would you recommend to them?
So you're saying that they have tried a lot of things, or they can't see what they're doing wrong.
Right. They can't see, even though they've tried a lot of different things. Is there something that you would be like, okay, this is like the heavy thing that I would recommend to you that would really snap you out of it or let you see through the illusion, so to speak, of your perception? Like, what is the silver bullet? Is there any silver bullet? Does that exist?
Yes. Yes. You have to give yourself permission to be disappointed. You need to give yourself permission to be disappointed by people that you love. Meaning, if someone can't see something that is hurting them, it's probably because they're trying to mask that. Because if you start feeling a certain level of pain, it's impossible that you won't see where it's coming from unless you don't want to, unless there's this mechanism trying to protect you from seeing. And I see a lot with women that have a very manipulative mom, and they don't notice until they're adults that they were being manipulated. They're like, no, but my mom loves me. And then, yeah, your mom loves you. That's not the question. But how is she making you feel? My partner, I know that my partner loves you, loves me. Okay, your partner loves you, but how is he making you feel? How is she making you feel? Is she nagging at you every single day for simple things? So sometimes we don't want to be disappointed. We don't want the pain of maybe my mom could have done a better job, or maybe I feel guilty because I picked this partner. And so you have to let yourself hurt because you have to be very willing to see reality. And that is very shocking for a lot of people. And that happened with my client recently. She told me it was exactly that case. She said, I had no idea. She would still ask her mom what she can wear, and 33 years old. Hey, mom, do you think this is good for me? Do you think this is bad for me? But that shouldn't even cross her mind. She should feel good in herself. So when she noticed that she was being manipulated since she was a kid, it was very sad for her. And she didn't know where it was coming from. And it was coming from that. So there always has to be a little bit of pain for you to be able to see something, and being very brave. You have to be very brave. So if the person is not even a little bit willing, then there's no way, because she's too sheltered from herself.
Oh, so step one, from what you're saying, is really wanting to change and then allowing yourself to go through the possible hardship, so to speak, of being different than what
Yeah.
you were before and what you're familiar with or what you think about people, and a painful truth, essentially. Mila, you're telling me a lot of this information, and I hear it all, and it's really, it can be heavy, right? To hear, do this type of work and to work with people in this way with clients and stuff like that. How did you get started in this, if you don't mind me asking? It's I feel like you have to really love the work, you know?
Yeah, I truly do. So my friends, they would always come to me with relational problems. They were like, I don't know how to deal with my mom. I don't know how to deal with my partner. And I don't know how to express myself. I'm always fighting. So they would come to me, and I felt like I was kind of good at it, at helping them, because I had studied so much and I knew what was happening inside of their brain. So I could give them some type of insight that they wouldn't have, because they don't have that type of information. They don't have that type of knowledge. So essentially, it was because my friends started asking me for advice, and I felt like I liked helping. It was very simple. It didn't have a very different feeling. It was very natural. I just felt like I could help. And I started making videos on TikTok talking about it. Said, maybe if this is happening, then this is what you should do about it. And people like it. So that's how I decided to focus on helping people about this specific topic. Because when we are adults, of course, family matters, friends matter, everyone matters. But when we become adults, we are looking for a partner. Most of us, we want to find a person. We want to share a life, one person, more people, right? But we want to share a romantic relationship with someone or with some people. So if we do that, then that takes a lot of our lives. So that's the most important decision you can make, in my opinion, is the person or the people that you have relationships with, romantic relationships, because it's a very different type. It's a very deep relationship. It's usually someone you have friends for different things, right? Oh, my friend that I like to play baseball with, my friend that I like to talk about books with. But when it comes to your partner, what you're looking for is, how can I maximize this person? How can I share almost everything with one human being? If you're not someone that wants to have a relationship with one person, how can I maximize this relationship that I have with these people? But in general, it is one person, and you want to take as much as you can and give as much as you can. That's why I wanted to work specifically with this relationship type. And I feel like it is one of the most important ones after adult life.
Yeah, I feel like it's huge because right now I feel like we're in this era where people feel more and more lonely than ever before. Like there's like a male loneliness epidemic. More women don't even want to get married or have kids, essentially. And I this is an assumption, but it has something to do with the way we relate to each other a little bit. With the work that you're doing now, how do you think this is going to ripple out to the rest of the world? And like, as a collective, like what needs to change really here in order for all of us to cohabitate or actually collaborate or have relationships with each other, even if it's not romantic? Like, how do we all just get along? Like, what needs to happen here, from a neuroscientific perspective? Because I see two people from two different countries, let's say, and because of the beliefs that they were born with or the culture that they have, they might grow up to hate each other and
Yes.
they might grow up to want to kill each other. And that's something that's real, that's happening right now. And it comes back to this root that it sounds like you're talking about, where it's belief systems and things and relationships and connection and reprogramming old beliefs that you have.
Yeah. I
I
think we
guess
are at
to bring,
war.
yeah.
There is this like gender war, feel like. Sometimes when I post something on TikTok about a situation, I see a lot of comments. Men are worthless. They're all the same. Or women never come back. Or women never this. Women are just looking for your money. So there's this very rooted war that we are creating. It is because of culture. It wasn't supposed to be like that. I feel like there's debate about it. It's not the truth of all. There's debate, but I believe that we like to collaborate with other people. Our, if you see babies, they are usually collaborating. So I feel like we are in this war that we shouldn't be in. We have men and women. We have different characteristics, and our brain is a little bit different. It had some very small differences, but it's not significant for that type of war that, oh, I am one, you are somebody else, I am better, or I know how to have relationships. Men don't have and don't know how to have relationships. So the first thing is, let me understand this person. And when it comes to cultures, it's very interesting. My boyfriend, he is Canadian and he has Chinese background, and I am Brazilian and I immigrated to Canada, right? So when we met, we were like, there's no way this is going to work. Like, we're completely different worlds. And I've never felt this way before. Like, we get along, we do everything together. So you have to let go of the preconceptions that you have, because sometimes they're not even yours. I remember one day I went to therapy. I looked at my therapist and I said, if I am not all of my belief systems, and if I'm not what people told me, then who am I, right? It's a very philosophical question if you think about it. Who are you without the things that people told you are? Who are you? So you go and you explore. Let me see. And then you think, for example, in relationships, I don't know. I don't think I would date any Brazilian women. I think they're loud or something, That's not true. And I wouldn't date this person because we have a very different religious background and we believe in completely different things. But what if that person could enhance your own beliefs? What if that person could bring into your life something you could never have? So you have to be very open-minded. And as a collective, we have to be open-minded. We have a lot of preconceived ideas, and I understand, because who doesn't? But being aware that that might not even be you is important for you to develop. And we do that one by one. And then that for sure comes together in a collective, because we live in this paradox of I am me, but I am also part of this huge ecosystem that is the human race, right? And we're all here trying our best. I feel like we're trying our best. Of course, there are bad people. There are, for example, psychopaths. There's this thing, oh, psychopaths are born or made. To me, they're born. There's something in their brain. And they learn, if they have proper education, they learn how to behave in society. And that should be enough from an evolutionary point of view. Just for you to, if you just collaborate, if you do the bare minimum, that would be enough. Our society is very forgiving in that sense. So as a collective, it's paradoxical, but as a collective, you do the work of you being open-minded. If everyone is open-minded and if we are empathetic, then for sure we can grow together in a more efficient way, essentially. Yeah.
I completely hear you. Do you feel like you're open-minded, Mila?
I do. Yeah. I'm super open-minded I think for everything, even food. There's nothing I wouldn't try. There's nothing I wouldn't do. I have all types of friends. That's why I live in Vancouver, right? It's a very diverse place. So I have friends from all nationalities, and I just love people. I just want to know and understand their mind, and learn from them and teach what I know. How about you? Do you feel like you are open-minded?
Yeah, I feel like I'm very open-minded. I used to think I was very open-minded, and the longer that I've lived, I've realized that the open-mindedness, it can be even more open. And then it starts to beg this question of how open can it be? And because if you ask anyone, majority of people are going to answer, probably tell you that, oh yeah, I'm open-minded. Because no one doesn't want to be open-minded, right?
That's
Because that's a
true.
part of the collective. Like everyone wants to be open-minded. Because when you say you're not, it suddenly just like ends the conversation. You're like, oh no, I'm not open-minded. But so everyone says that. Well, what does that actually mean? And is that actually true? Are
Okay.
you actually open-minded? And how far does that go? How far is the openness? Is it just to foods? Is it to relationship styles? Is it to gender shifts and changes? Like there's so many things, right? And
That's
but most
amazing.
people, if you ask them, they're like, "Yeah, I'm very open-minded." You know,
Yeah,
at
I
least that's
love this.
what I experience.
No, I agree with you 100%. And you know what? For being smart as well. Every time someone asks me if I think I'm smart, I say, it depends. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But the more I study, the less smart I feel, actually. I'm like, there's so much to learn that what I know is so little. But then if I say that to myself, I feel kind of dumb. I'm like, oh, maybe I don't know that much. But then what I have to remind myself is I just have to know a little bit so I can give. And I feel like being open minded is also close to that. I might not be the person with the like, maybe I'm not the most open minded person, but I am willing to listen. I am willing to try my best not to judge too much because we're judgmental beings. It's normal. It's defense mechanism as well. Let me see how I feel about this. But I feel like being open minded is being willing to understand and listen and maybe know that you don't have to agree. You don't have to agree, but just respecting is enough of to me if you can respect something then you are open minded enough. And I think the more we study, the more we talk to other people, the more open minded we become because we're like, oh, okay, there's this type of relating to other people. Like I'm watching this show called Couples Therapy and I watch it on Crave and there's this couple and they're not monogamous. They have kind of an open relationship, but then they have an anchor partner, right? And but then they go around with dating other people. And when I saw that, I was like, huh, that's very interesting. I would never be open to that. I would never think that this is okay. But then I told myself, I don't know. I don't know about the future. So just questioning like we'll see what happens. I don't have all the answers and I'm willing to be wrong and maybe my way is not the only way. So just knowing your way is not the only way. So it's okay to have your own boundaries. You don't have to cross your boundaries to be open minded. You just have to be willing to understand, willing to listen, and sometimes you don't understand, and that's okay. That's okay too. If you're empathetic, you're like, listen, I don't necessarily understand where you're coming from, but I sympathize and I hope you're happy, then that should be more than enough. That's more than a lot of people can give.
Yeah, I feel like that's what it comes down to is like kind of trying to understand each other. I feel like if you're in opposition with someone, if you were to redo your life and re-experience your life in their shoes, you would suddenly completely agree with them and be on the exact same page because of your upbringing and your experiences. But yet we have two different people that can't recognize the fact that, oh, we're just not agreeing right now because of our backgrounds and the
Yes.
experiences that we've had so far.
Oh my
But
God,
if
yes.
we just switch shoes for a second and just put yourself in the other person's shoes, imagine if you grew up in this lifestyle, in this way, had these experiences. You don't even have to know what they experienced, but you know it was enough for them to land where they are right now. That's how I feel, and I feel like sometimes you lose sight of that, and it becomes me versus you, and becomes judgment of because I can't understand you. But I don't think you need to understand someone, but you just need to try to understand. Like, hey, you're different, and you have a different point of view, and you're still a human being. You still have a mom. You're gonna have kids one day, maybe, but we all deserve to be on this planet together. It's just, I don't know. It feels obvious. I'm about to be on like going on a TED Talk rant right now, but it feels so obvious, but it feels so lost to so many people, and that's why
Yeah, it
I'm
is
so like
lost.
passionate about what I'm talking about right now.
Yeah, I love it. I
Yeah.
think you're completely right. I agree with you 100%. And one other thing is every time we are about to have a conversation with someone, if you agree or if you don't agree about something, I would say that the first step is understanding their start point. What's their start point for agreeing or not agreeing with you? Meaning, oh, I think let's say in relationships, I think all men are bad. I think all men cheat, right? This classic one. I think all men cheat. Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you coming from? I think all men cheat because I've seen my mom, I've seen my aunt, and to me they're all the same. Okay, that's your starting point. I don't think men cheat. Why? What's your starting point? I've never had this experience. I've never met any men that bluntly told me that they cheat. And I've never, when it comes to the brain, there's no evidence that this would happen more because that person is not a female. So it's the starting point matters. And I remember I was having this conversation with someone. They told me, they said, avoidant people are narcissists, right? Well, this is just a fun or cute term for narcissism if you are an avoidant, if you avoid relationships. And I don't agree with that. They're completely different styles and completely different people. But the starting point is my ex, her starting point was my ex was a narcissist avoidant person. My starting point is I know to me from the evidence that I've seen that this is different. So if you don't have the first step, the same starting point, then you don't even know what you are discussing.
Yeah, I get it, because the starting point is how you create the perception to begin with of
Yes.
your experience. So if you
Mhm.
have that initial starting point perception, everything follows that, just sort of reinforces it. So is it sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, so to speak, or is it just how you see it?
Yeah, I think it can be self-fulfilling because it's what you're looking, it's the evidence that you want. You're looking for that same evidence that you are right instead of curiosity. I think we have to move from certainty to curiosity. It's okay to be wrong and no one owns the truth. It's so complex and I think we have to understand life, not take it so seriously, like so in such a rigid way. If you know that you might be wrong, then you're good to go. I feel like you're going to have even better experiences because you're approaching people with curiosity instead of labeling them, right? You're not labeling anyone. You're like, let me see what's going to happen. But you go knowing. You don't go to love them. You don't go to hate them. It's not that you're trying to love or hate someone. You're just open-minded. You're just open to them. And then you understand after they do something, if you are willing to go a little bit deeper. Do I want to talk to them one more time? Do I want to check in on them every month? And then you understand how you want that relationship dynamic and see if the other person has the same thoughts, has the same feelings, because everyone is coming from their own perspective, their own perception. It's not necessarily reality. So you have just to be willing. If you're willing, if you're like, I want to understand you a little bit better, and sometimes I won't understand you, and that's totally fine, then you're going to have a way better experience overall.
Well, so just as an example, so I feel like as people, we have a mechanism in us that naturally wants to make an assumption and take a leap based on the information that we have so far. So just as an example, I had a friend in college who, if a girl did not text him back right away, he would just make this assumption like she is not interested in me, and that's suddenly becomes his starting point, so to speak, of, oh, this person does not want anything to do with me. And then even though you don't have enough data to even make that assumption, she just missed one text message, you know what I mean? And just remind me of that and how our brains will do that, and we don't even realize it's happening, but we just make an assumption based on that, and then it suddenly becomes all women are just not don't wanna date seriously, right? And that becomes the belief
Yeah.
because of that perception.
Definitely. It is his own assumption, and he's going to go from that assumption. So his starting point is that one. It's that experience that he had or some experiences that he had. If he's willing to learn and just collect more data, then he'll be more willing, more prone to having a good experience overall. So I see that all the time. Like, well, this guy didn't text me back. Maybe he doesn't like me. Yeah, maybe he doesn't like you. It's true. That might be true. But maybe he does and he's just busy. So how about you wait a little bit longer before you jump to conclusions? It's not Life is not about how can I optimize this task. It's how can I have the best experience? If I get to choose what to believe, why would I believe something that makes me feel bad? If I can choose, it's my choice. It's my choice. I can believe this guy doesn't like me, or I can believe he's busy. Right now, because I don't know which one is true, I'm gonna pick the one that is gonna help me go around my day with more ease. So if you can choose your belief, choose the one that makes you feel better.
Yeah. Hearing you say all this, I keep thinking about how many people before us, like our ancestors, all formed this belief of how hard life is because of how hard life was back then. And this becomes sort of like a blueprint for all of us as you get older, even though life isn't as hard as it used to be, but we all think that life is really hard and that becomes like a story. And it's all stories essentially. It's all stories that we assign to things that happen. Things that happen are kind of neutral. We're the ones that are like, oh, this is hard, this is not to some degree.
Yeah. Um,
And yeah,
it's have you ever heard of that study called Universe 25 with the
no,
mice?
tell me more about it. No.
So there was this scientist, he put a lot of rats in, like, I'm sorry about how I'm gonna explain it. I'm gonna just try to make it as
Okay.
easy to understand as possible. But this guy, he put a lot of rats and he wanted to understand if given the perfect environment, if they had the perfect environment, if they would thrive as a society, right? No predators, food, mate, nothing, no danger. And he did that. He did the experiment, I think 25 times. That's why the name Universe 25, I'm pretty sure. And all the time, they would end up fighting. They would end up in war. They would cause the problems themselves. So your brain is looking for things to solve. It's natural. We do that all the time. Your brain is looking for problems. You have to try your best to be positive. And with rats, it's the same thing. They didn't have any problems, but they started causing the problems. There were no predators. They had a lot of food, but they were still looking for something, for, let's say, for a challenge. So the thing for us is we need challenge as human beings. It's okay to have challenges. And maybe your challenge is to wake up early. Maybe your challenge is to actually provide for your family. Everyone has a different degree of challenge. Growing up in the favela in Brazil, I had very different challenges than I see my friends now here that they grew up in Canada with a much better support system, with more money, and they had more. And I see that they also had their difficulties. And I don't think it's more or less. It's the one that they were facing, right? And you can only face the one that you're facing. So, but the thing is, if you know that could be worse, maybe you can be a little bit more grateful. It's like, yeah, maybe I didn't go to a private school, but I've always had food. Maybe I didn't have a private driver to take me to school, but my mom was always present with me. She would do my homework with me. So focusing on the things that you had rather than the lack is also going to help you be a little bit more positive and not think that life is so difficult. For some people have it very hard. I know, I've been there. I saw it, right? I saw it. I grew up in a very dangerous environment. So I know how difficult it can be. And I know for people that went through wars and they have their own set of traumas and hardship. But there are people that are thriving. And maybe you are that person that maybe you are thriving. And for you, life is not that hard. So how can you contribute? How can you do more with what you have? It's not about what you have, but what you do with what you have. If you have a little bit of time, maybe you can make a video about something you went through. If you have some free time on weekend, maybe you want to volunteer to take care of animals in the shelter. So there's so much we can do to contribute and not just be in our own world in this individuality of I'm going to heal myself and I'm going to heal by myself and I'm never going to find anyone. Let's contribute. If you can give 1 hour to someone or make a video or understand that maybe you didn't have everything, but you had enough so you can thrive at least a little bit, then that should be your starting point, right? I don't know if you agree. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you that I feel like there was a time a few years back where I went to Costa Rica and I was on like a little vacation there and I was exploring just like how people live there and to work remote and stuff like that. And I saw a population of people that did not have as much as we had in America, technically, right? Like financially. But what I observed was how happy they were. That everyone I walked by had a big smile on their face and they were playing music and talking to each other and playing sports. And it made me really question why that was. And I became really aware that they were just so grateful for what they had and the cards that they were dealt. They were happy with the cards that they were dealt. And there are people that get dealt very good cards, so to speak. And we catastrophize it or don't see the goodness in it. And we just see everything that we don't have. And so I agree with you 100% about that story. we've talked so much about beliefs, right? And co-regulating and partners like helping each other heal essentially and people healing with each other and the collective. If we were to help land this plane a little bit, what are some tactical things that you would recommend now in order to experience this what you're talking about of seeing the goodness in things or really rewiring our brains? Like what is something that someone should actively be doing in order to make this shift, regardless of where they're at or where their starting point is?
Beautiful. Yeah. I I see that in Brazil as well, that a lot of people are very happy with very little. And I think it's focusing on what you have and not what you don't have. Yeah, we all want more, right? We all want more. And that will never end. And this is not a bad thing. You always want something more. But then you can shift the I want something materialistic for I want something that I can feel or I can be. Maybe learning a new language, maybe learning a new instrument, maybe giving a little bit of your time. So I think the first thing is focusing on what you have. The second thing is doing that every single day as much as you can. There's one exercise that I love is how happy can I be after one event? I try to track. For example, I bought a bag and I really wanted this bag, and it's a nice bag. And it was the first time I was like, oh my gosh, should I spend that much money? But I was happy about it. And then, and I remember my boyfriend said, let's see how long this happiness is going to last, right? Because we wanted to analyze it. And every time I look at the bag, I feel happy. I'm like, I'm so grateful. I bought this with my money that I made from helping other people. And I look at it and I feel so happy. And it's something so simple. It's something so simple. But how happy can you be after one happy moment? And you try to hold on to that feeling for as long as you can, because we do that with sadness, right? When we think and dwell on something for so long, so let's do that, but for good things. The longer you are with one feeling, the better you're going to be at recognizing it in you. So if you try to focus on what you have, you can even write down everything that you have. And I try to do that very often. I had a dog for a long time. And I remember that every single day I would be so grateful for her. And she passed away. But the thing is, I have no regrets in me because I was so grateful and I was so present with her. And I feel like a lot of times when we feel sad about something, it's just because we weren't there to appreciate it. So right now, you have your life right now. You have to appreciate every single thing. Your ability to walk, your ability to go to the washroom you don't need any help for that. And these things we take for granted, but one day they're not going to be as easy. Walking to the washroom, it's not going to be as easy for you as it is now. And appreciating the very simple things that we take for granted, to me, is important. And I actively do that. Because if I don't, I know my brain is going to take me to places that I don't want to go to. I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to think of bad things. So learning how to focus on that. And I'm not saying repress your emotions. If you're sad, it's okay. You're going to be sad. We all get sad. But in a day-to-day, focus on the good things. Process your feelings by writing down, talking to a therapist, talking to a friend. But when you're doing something, be very grateful that you can do that. It's not, oh, I have to do the dishes. I get to do the dishes, It's not, I have to see this friend. Is I have a friend and I get to see them. Or I have to go visit my parents. My parents are alive and I get to go see them. So just shifting this very simple little things, they're going to make a huge difference in the long run, for sure.
Well, this is blowing my mind because I feel like majority of society does the opposite of what you're saying on a regular basis.
Mhm.
So is what you're prescribing essentially going through every single moment and seeing the glass half full or the gratitude, the fortune that you have every single moment. Like right now, we're fortunate to be able to talk to each other online through a podcast and have that experience. So is the neuroscience explaining that we have to do that with every single thing, or is there, because it sounds like too perfect, right? Is there
I
like
see
a
what you mean.
minimum threshold?
Yes.
What's the minimum
Yeah,
to
it's
actually make this work?
one super big happy moment. Let's say me, it was the bag, right? Maybe for someone is buying a car, or for someone is getting married, for someone is having a kid. How long can you sustain that big moment? It's gonna be less and less with time. But can you still look at it and still be grateful? Like some people that their dream is to have a kid. And I know that when they do, they get so happy. So can they cultivate that in their day to day? You don't have to do that with every single moment, but just having a little bit of that feeling of This is interesting. This is nice. I'm happy that I get to experience this. I live in Vancouver. It's a beautiful city, and I try my best to never take it for granted because one day this was my dream. I wanted to come here. And so to me, it's just trying to remember every once in a while. It's not with every single moment because sometimes we just want to we want to experience and we need to experience other types of emotions because we only learn through contrast. There's nothing in life that we don't have the exact opposite of it. Life, death, light, day and night. So we have contrast. We learn through contrast. So being sad, being angry, being frustrated is very important. And it's important for our evolution. It's important for us to deal with other people. It's important to recognize it in other people and be able to help. But how can you make space in your day to be a little bit grateful? You don't need to be extremely happy tears, but how do you bring a little bit of content and happiness into your life? Just a little bit, Like, there's little things that make you happy. I really like pink. I like pink. So I bought this pink mug and I love it. I think it's cute. And it's simple, but I know that for some people they need a little bit more. They need something a little bit bigger. So if it's something a little bit bigger, how long can you stay in that feeling? I bought a car, for example, and I want to try my best to be happy. So I want to be grateful. But then next year I think I want a new car. So is this for you? Is this really for you? It's deeper than we think. It's not just about being happy. It's about being appreciative. You're appreciating something that one day you didn't have and one day you won't have anymore because one day we won't be here anymore. So just that little reminder of this is finite, just to try to enjoy it as much as you can. I remember I was talking to a friend and she was like, I'm so sad. I'm so frustrated. And I told her, I said, I know and feel it. You should feel frustrated. You should enjoy this frustration because it's not going to be there forever. You know, Next week you're going to talk to me and you're not even going to remember this, but process it, have it, but just know everything. I know this sounds very Buddha like, but from a neuroscientific perspective, this is very important as well because you are protecting your brain from too much cortisol. It can be very bad for you, not always and not all types, anyways, but stress is bad. There's nothing, a little bit of stress is good, too much stress is bad. So process your emotions, but stay with the good feeling for as long as possible because also you're gonna feel sad again. You're gonna feel happy again. So just learn how to navigate the waves and understand that they're just waves. They're gonna go away eventually.
Yeah, I love this. And honestly, I really love that we were able to talk about this and really make it tactical. And I feel like we bust a lot of myths that were going on like social media and what people think and the way they live their lives. And it's really why we're having this conversation right now. And like this, how this all exists is trying to break these assumptions that we've been told about who we are or how we're supposed to heal and how we're supposed to love each other, or how we work and how we build the future essentially. So really trying to find ways to break all the hidden patterns that shape our lives. And I really appreciate you sharing all of your background in neuroscience and all of your experiences to really create this conversation because I feel like it's the first step in changing people. In order to change society and life and to create a better world, create better systems, I feel like we got to change ourselves to some degree and everything else starts to kind of ripple from that. So long story short, I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to just like sit with me and have this conversation and share all of your knowledge and your wisdom. And you're doing really, really cool stuff. And I'm really excited that people like you exist and are doing the work that you do. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity and it was my absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, Mila, if other people want to learn more about you or find out about your work, where do people find you?
So you can find me on TikTok. It's Mila Valam, Valam. And I'm also on Instagram. I'm not as active on Instagram, but I'm going to be. But I'm on TikTok most of the time.
Okay. Thank you so much. This is so amazing. Is there any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience? Any last comments? Let it flow.
Yeah, sure. So I am very fortunate to be here and I really appreciate your time and everyone's time. And one thing that we have to remember is we do have to change ourselves in terms of how we do better and explore with curiosity. And we have to do that through relationships. Don't let anyone think that the healing journey is a very lonely thing and that you have to do everything by yourself. You're not alone. There are people out there that can help you thrive, that can show you things, that can take you places, and you can do the same for them. And everyone deserves to see you. So don't hide yourself, don't be scared. And thank you so much. Yeah, that was my final thought. We can change ourselves through relationships, which is the cutest paradox I've ever seen.
Thank you so much. I feel like this is what people need to hear. I think I'm excited to see what you do on social media as well, because I think this is like the type of message that I think more people need to hear. It's like a very healed perspective, essentially. And I feel like a lot of people are spreading a lot of misinformation online, which is the internet, you know? But that's what this show will continue to progress about. And thank you for your time. For everyone who's watching or listening, if this really opens something in you, follow Mila and stay connected to this conversation. You can like and subscribe the show to support this work and see more content like this, more information like this, where we're going to have a lot of other conversations and information that explore healing, connection, freedom, and how to create a really better world, a better life. So we're just getting started. And thank you so much. And thank you, Mila, again for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, guys.